Hello, everyone. Can you all hear me? How's it going? Just let me know if the audio's coming through. I think I have everything set up correctly. Testing, testing. Looks like it's coming through all right. Perfect. I'm assuming that's about the audio. Yes, good. Yes. Okay. Well, let's hide this for a second. Wait. Okay. Yep, that's me. I am in fact Hidetaka Miyazaki. So, what's up, guys? This is an Elden Ring appreciation stream. So, I made a critique of Elden Ring, and I've been I've been critical in lots of ways about the game. Um, but today is the 14-year anniversary of the release of Demon Souls, and I thought it would be nice to just have some fun with Elden Ring and see where FromSoft is, how far they've come. Um, and if any of you are on PS4, I don't actually know if there's crossplay between PS4 and PS5. If there is, then if you're on PlayStation at all, then you can play along, and I'll summon you guys. I'll give a multiplayer password in a bit once we get to that point. But first up, we're going to create a new character. So let me put this. Let's see. Is that too loud? Let me know if that the music is too loud. I also have an ulterior motive for doing this stream, which is that I'm in the middle of writing a script and I'm kind of stuck on one point to do with how trees work, which is a pretty important concept, as you might imagine. Excuse me. So I thought that by playing the game a little bit, it might, I don't know, jog some thoughts. That's perfect. Okay. Good. Sup. Howdy. How's it going, John? How's it going, Ratatoska? Saucy Pup. Okay, so we're going to create a new game. Oh, I got to delete a profile. Let's see. Who should I delete? Oh, this guy's not important. Okay. Well, what should we be? I mean, I feel like Wretch is that just feels like the most appropriate, you know? Because what we're playing as today is we are going to play as the man himself. Oh no. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we're going to spend a little time. There is crossplay? Oh, that's good. Yeah, so if anyone's on PlayStation, you can join along. So let's bring this up again. And let me resize this so that it makes sense. Let's see. Wait, where's the base template? What's the closest? What's the closest to Miyazaki here? Start with Reedlander, that makes sense. And How trees work? Yeah, so the script that I'm working on at the moment, the working title is... I'm not sure which one I'm going to go with. It's either Sex, Death, and False Gods, or Sex, Immortality, and False Gods. But, I have a section about trees, the sort of the thematic stuff to do with trees in Elden Ring, and I'm just not totally clear on a couple things, so I want to figure that out. Alright, let's see. First, let's get the hair. That seems about right. Okay, yeah, there we go. Too bad we can't have glasses. Yeah, John, no, it won't. I was thinking of making the thumbnail like some horrible Ronnie fan art or something like that, but why not? And let's see. So we gotta adjust this face template. Let's see what looks. First of all, let's get the facial hair right. So do we have a little? There we go. We'll keep the chin beard. I wish you could make it smaller. Just make it not quite as dark. Okay, now let's see. Face template. Nope. Definitely no. That might work. Okay. Oh, now it's always important when you're making someone in the character creation for any of the for any of the Souls games, you don't want to try and perfectly match the features of the face to the person that you're cosplaying as. You just want to get the like a sort of caricature. You want to get the main things to get across. So we need to get the look of Miyazaki, that sort of impish look. You know, he's got a sense of humor. So first we're gonna bring the jaw back a little bit and bring this back. And then we're going to give him a little bit more of a smile, which is also going to be here. That's a little bit too much. And this looks kind of weird, these lips. The thing is, his eyes look a little weird now, so let's get rid of the... He should have dark circles, because he's a gamer, you know, so... John says, I love how so many video essays exist on the immersion of these games, and then you look at the community members playing it, and every single one randomizes the character creator into a monster. Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, the first time that you play any of the Souls games, you should... the first time that you play any game, I would recommend trying to play it in the way that you think the game wants you to play it. Like, there's, you know, you can always game the game and make it less fun for yourself. But I think it's a good idea to try and play the games in the way that they're intended to be played. Once you beat it, then, you know, you have fun with it. We need thin brows. I read anime. What's up, Eridan? By the way, if anyone is not familiar with Eridan, you should go check out his channel. He has fantastic content. He did a lore through of Elden Ring, which is how I discovered him, and it really actually it drew my attention to a whole bunch of things that I would never have noticed otherwise. So let's see. Now he's got kind of like a Klingon forehead now. That's not good. So let's change that. Bring that forehead depth back. Why is his eyebrows coming out so much? It's a little weird. We gotta get that glimmer in the eyes. Oh, new video dropping tomorrow. Looking forward to it. Okay. Why are his eyebrows sticking out so much? How do we change that? No, that's not it. Makes him look too evil. Is it this? No. Leave that where it is. You gotta raise his eyebrows a little bit so he has that look of... Let's see. Now he looks a little creepy. How do we get that twinkle in the eyes? That's the most important part. Let's first just make this black. That'll look a bit better. That already looks better. Maybe we need to do a little bit of... Not so much eyeshadow. That looks a bit better. Now his face is too long and not wide enough. Gotta make him look more jolly. How am I so good at this? Yeah, I've done so many, I've made so many people, and the amount of time that I spent in the character creation menus of all these games over the years. I've made Elon Musk, I've made Donald Trump, I've made Thanos. I've made Thanos in every game. I've made Guts. A lot of different people. Let's see. That's fine. Eyebrows are fine. Facial hair's fine. Eyelashes. Let's see. That's too much. I think that adds to the look a little bit. Nobody's gonna look at his face that closely. Now what we want to do is bring the whole face up. So let's try chin depth. That works a bit. But now his mouth is... where is it? Now the problem is he's not smiling as much, so... that looks kind of weird. That's a bit better. Now his jaw's too wide. Now we'll mess around with the big stuff. Don't know if I'm gonna change that. No, definitely not. I think I made it worse now. We're definitely gonna change the nose. That's a... Have I made me? Yeah, I've made me. I usually play as... for the first time in these games, I usually play as either myself or I'll make up a completely new character that I think fits the world. His face still isn't wide enough. I need to make it a little bit... See if I change that, then... Okay, that works a bit better, actually. And now the nose. Let's see. He's got a very... It's already at its widest. I think we gotta trim this back. That looks a little weird now. And tilt it up just slightly. That looks a little bit too... And we gotta move it up slightly, as well as the mouth. Now the only problem is his eyes look a little funky. Still doesn't have that glimmer that I'm looking for, you know? It's gotta look like he really wants you to suffer. Every time I make a character, I just change my name to fit the theme. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I feel like I generally... I don't know. Some people like to play as themselves. And I sometimes do that, but in a way that takes me more out of it. I find it more immersive to just create a character, like something that would make sense in the world. But then, you know, if you're having fun with it, then just make up someone completely new. No. That's too much. How do we get that glimmer? Maybe a little more. Maybe we gotta get these circles out of the way. Oh, why is this so... That's weird looking, but oh, that's too much. I don't want him to look like he has makeup, but I need something to kind of highlight the eyes. That looks weird now. It looks like he's got makeup on. I don't like that. Looks a bit better. Would I return to Yarnum? Yeah, I might do that at some point. I don't know, I didn't really enjoy playing Bloodborne that much. Although, to be fair, I've never done the, I've never finished the DLC. I think I beat Ludwig, and then I ended it there. I just didn't really enjoy it that much. Is that too high up? Where's this? That's too much. And now we gotta make the... Now he looks like he's got makeup. I don't like that. Let's bring this back a little bit. 30 should do it. Something's off. Something's off. What is it? That's kind of the look. It kind of looks like a... Maybe we need to change the... Oh, that's mature already? Oh, that's way too old. Do you young Miyazaki? No, I think mature is the right look. I think that's the right look. And then, let's see. We'll make him have a huge head, because, you know, big brain. Not muscular, he's a gamer. You didn't enjoy Bloodborne? You get a gun? The main thing that I didn't really like about Bloodborne was that I think it encourages you to play messy because of the rally system. The rally system encourages you to take hits, and I didn't really like that. I like the... I don't know if I would say that that's a bad thing, like an objective demerit on the game. I just think that I don't really like that style. I like the methodical style of Dark Souls and Demon Souls where you know, you can theoretically avoid everything. Now the eyelashes are bothering me. Okay, we'll go back to this. Actually, I think that looks better now. And then we'll just move the cheekbones down a little bit. Yeah, that kind of gets the right. Can't make his nose more bulbous. Is there something I can do about that? Let's see if we just do that. Yeah, bring it down a little bit. Now he looks kind of creepy. I don't think that improved anything. Bloodborne's biggest problem is lack of stamina, like that Elden Ring is more generous with it. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think Bloodborne is successful at what it aims to do, which is making you feel like a hunter. I also think it's a bit strange because, like, I don't know, there's more of a nuanced point than I really want to get into right now, but the idea of, like, the Lovecraftian cosmic horror, which Bloodborne has a different take on, right? It's not actually Lovecraftian cosmic horror. It's putting Lovecraftian cosmic horror in the context of a gothic, like, it is grounded. It's not actually cosmic horror. But that sort of theme, I think it's strange to me that you would choose to make a really fast-paced action game for that theme, because it seems like you would want to slow things down so that you can sort of appreciate the atmosphere. rather than making it more aggressive and faster paced. That's just my feeling. No. Oh, he looks like a little boy. But maybe that's appropriate, actually. And I think... You know what? Maybe the eyes are too big now. Maybe we need to make them a little bit closer together. That kind of works a bit better, actually. Although he looks a little more intimidating. I wish I could make the eyebrows work properly. Oh, that's good. That's good. It's just this element of it. Now his eyes are too close together. A little smaller. He's not smiling as much. It's important to get this stuff right, you know. Okay, I think that'll do it. And you know what? Let's save this. Who can I delete here? All right, we're ready, and let's see. What's the most appropriate thing? Actually, you know what? The past has been well and truly left behind. I think that's appropriate. Here we go. And we can get rid of this now. I mean, Bloodborne is supposed to encourage aggression, but more often it suffers, oh, just land 1 or 2 hits and back away a tad too often. Yeah. I mean, I think it achieves the feeling of being like a cool hunter. You know, you got your gun, it's fast action game. I don't really enjoy that as much. Face cam has been removed, yeah.
Tell a story.
Yeah, you can just hit elder gods to kill them. I think Bloodborne takes us a journey from classic horror to cosmic horror, like we start with werewolves, vampires, etc. Yeah, except that it puts the cosmic horror in the classic horror context. Right, so it's in a way, yes, but it's also kind of it's kind of all just classic horror. It's just it so happens that some of the monsters are like cosmic horror styled entities.
America, the Eternal, is nowhere to be found.
I wish they'd bring back evolve on the regain mechanic.
And in the night of
Yeah.
black knives,
Well, they did
Godwyn
bring it
the
back
Golden
with Melania's rune,
was first
sort of,
to perish.
but it's not exactly an evolution, more of an afterthought.
Soon,
Marika's offspring. Oh, Ronnie's Marika's offspring.
claimed the shards of the Elden Ring. The mad taint of their newfound strength triggered the shattering.
The shattering. So there's the shattering of the Elden Ring, and then there's the shattering. That's interesting.
A war from which no lord arose. A war leading to abandonment by the greater will. Oh, rise now, ye tarnished, ye dead who yet live. The call of long-lost grace speaks
I didn't think
to
of this
us
when I
all.
played ER, but I've noticed some people have made a good point about how the actual narrative of Elden Ring, not lore, is so flimsy compared to the other games.
Horalu, chieftain of the
I
Badlands.
wouldn't describe it as flimsy. I think it's definitely
The ever-brilliant
the major
Golmask.
points of the story and the places where
Fear.
you
The
can
deathbed companion. The loathsome
Like
dung
the
eater.
ability for you to empathize with, or even just understand
And
some of the main
Gideon
actors in the
Othniel.
story is
The
much
all-knowing.
more obscured. Oh, Elden Ring.
And one.
Do I wish they'd done a CGI opening like they did for
whom
Dark
grace
Souls?
would
I think
again
it's very.
bless.
I would bet on the fact that the
Tarnished
story
of
trailer,
no
what's been
renown.
called the story trailer, was originally the CGI opening.
Cross the fog to the lands between. To stand before the Elden Ring. And become the Elden Lord.
I mean, to your point, John, about the story being flimsy, I think people sometimes overstate that. Like, I don't know, if you can explain to me what the Age of Dark means in Dark Souls, you know, like what are you choosing at the end? It's not really. The specific mechanics of that are not really clear. There's always an element of mystery to these games. But if you compare someone like Gwyn to someone like Radigan or America, I think it's much less obvious, you know, what they're like as people, what their motivations are. Look at this beautiful man. Brightness low? That's alright. Actually, no, I'm gonna bump it up a little bit. Normally, I like to play Dark Souls on maybe not the lowest brightness, but the close to it. And but Elden Ring, I think. All right, let's see how this goes. Oops, already screwed up. Good. Alright, that was terrible. That was shameful. Don't know who the narrator is? I think all the games... Well, let's see. Bloodborne had a different sort of opening, but for the rest of the games, I don't think the narrator is an in-universe person. I think that's... The only thing about that, I don't remember if I mentioned this in my super long lore stream, but that the narrator says our home, the lands between, which you could argue means that he's like also a character in the story, but I think that's pretty loose. I think the cutscenes in the game were really uneven in terms of the editing, pacing, and audio. Some were great, like Elden Beast, Rykard, Melania, and Malekith.
Don't worry, Torrent. fortune is on his side. We found him here, after all.
This whole opening is a bit confusing.
One of his kind is
Exactly
sure
how
to
you get in
seek
this cave.
the Elden Ring,
The Elden Ring. Oh, hey, that's the name of the game.
even if it does violate the Golden Order.
This opening is pretty much an homage to Demon Souls. I mean, music, the tarnish going into the light. Oh yeah, that cutscene at the end of the intro. Yeah, for sure. So, since we're on the appreciation front, I think we gotta fight Soldier of Godric, you know. Soldier of Godric, one of the best bosses in the game. There's this odd visual effect when you get close to the Grace. Let's see. Yeah. I don't know if that's intentional or not, but the fact that it looks like water is interesting to me. Partly because if you look at the memory of Grace, it looks like a reflection in water. And the idea that you're crossing the fog in order to get this, or you're crossing the sea in order to get back to the lands between. Could it be Vare who brings you to the cave? There's a theory that he killed your maiden in the beginning, right? And he seems to know where to be waiting for you. That's an interesting idea. I hadn't considered that. I mean, so, you know, if you go down to where that... I think it's an Alabaster Lord. If you go down there... there is a cave which leads you back into, like, pretty much where you end up when you start the game. So, presumably, you, like, fell off the cliff and then washed up on the shore. But then, how did you get into, like, did someone drag you up there? Was it the Alabaster Lord, maybe? I don't know. It's a little... The whole opening feels a little bit, like maybe there was a different plan or it was a little rushed. I don't think it's super important, but... Soldier of Godric. Beautiful. What a fantastic boss. Unironically, though, I actually think it's a great tutorial. Strength. Oh, whoops, that one. Okay. What is the memory of Grace, Crunchy? What do I think it is? Well, there is a connection between Grace and memory, right? Because you can travel between Graces, but only the ones that you've been to. So, the idea is maybe I'm reading too much into it, but maybe the idea is that, you know, you can only travel to the ones that you remember. I think they put a ripple effect over a light reskin of the humanity sprites. It's probably not actually a reskin because it's much higher resolution, but... Okay, so we should figure out exactly what we're doing. First of all... we're going to turn off the music. Sorry, this is an appreciation stream, but I need to appreciate it while playing it. So I don't want any ambient music. That's nicer. Let's talk to Vare.
Oh, yes. Tarnished, are we? Come to the lands between for the Elden Ring?
Yeah, I'm here to play the game,
Of course
exactly.
you have. No shame,
No shame in it.
Unfortunately for you, however,
When
you
leaving
are
the Chapel of
maidenless.
Anticipation, either by dying or jumping,
Without
you can hear water
guidance,
swelling. So I think it's the
without
tide that
strength
takes
of
you, then
rune,
spits you into the
and
cave via the
without
beach
an
entrance.
invitation to the round table hold, you are fated,
Yeah.
it seems, to die in obscurity.
Fated.
Luckily for you, however, there is one shining ray of hope for even the maidenless. Me. Vare. Take care to listen. Are you familiar with grace?
I'll turn the music back on
the
for
golden
like
light
the
that gives life
boss fights.
to you tarnished. You may also behold its golden rays, pointing in a particular direction at times. That is the guidance of grace, the path that a tarnished must travel.
But the resemblance of grace to humanity, I think, is definitely
Grace's guidance holds
it's
the
definitely because
answers.
it's representing the
It will
same sort
lead
of
you,
thematic
tarnished, to the path you
idea.
are meant to
Like
follow,
these are the souls of
even
people.
if it leads you to your
It is
grave.
something to do with humanity, the spirit of humanity. I've been obsessed with this game's lore for almost a year now, and part of me feels like there's some small detail staring me in the face that will recontextualize the entire story. Yeah, I do feel like, you know, Miyazaki could literally say like one sentence about something in the game's lore that would make everyone just go like, oh, that's how it all works, you know? So yeah, I have the same. I've had that feeling for like the last 8 months. Okay, so let's grab this, and we gotta go get some. We gotta go get some flowers. Flower picking time. Might as well kill some goats, you know. Crafting only run. Items. Should we use only items? Yeah, I don't know what the theme will be here. So let's grab. There's another one over here, isn't there? Isn't there another flower right here? Am I crazy? I thought there was another Erdleaf flower right here. Oh, right there. And I gotta buy that crafting kit. In before poison only? Poison build? Maybe that actually sounds kind of appropriate for Miyazaki.
You're a tarnished, and I can also that you're not
Poison
after
swamp
them.
build.
Why not? I am Kale. I am of a nomadic people, selling wares as I travel. The land has been tainted by madness since the shattering of the Elden Ring.
Since the shattering of
It's
the Elden
only
Ring.
tarnished like
So
yourself,
before the
who
Elden
keep
Ring was
things
shattered,
from
it
drying
wasn't
up
tainted by
entirely.
madness.
Let's say you're a very welcome customer. Goodbye.
So, okay, now let's see. multiplayer password will be crunchy, all lowercase. So if you are on PS4 or PS5, assuming that there is crossplay, then you can put that in. And I don't know if I'm going to wait around necessarily, because I don't know if anyone's actually on, but I'll just leave that on for as long as possible. And we'll go gallivanting around the lands between. So yeah, poison build, that's an interesting idea. I'm kind of liking that idea. What would be the place to go then? I really wonder how long the Shattering was. Some people think it's thousands of years ago, which feels off to me. Yeah, it is. That is another thing which is kind of unclear, because I think the timeline of the previous games was a bit clearer, and they have generally gone in the direction of a longer timeline. Because like Demon Souls, everything happens within, you know, maybe a decade or two. Dark Souls, I don't remember if there's a specific line of dialogue. I think it's something like, you know, Quilana says something, right? I don't remember, but it's, you know, centuries. And then in Elden Ring, I think the whole timeline is pretty expansive, but it's not clear where the Shattering really fits into that. So first we should go to this encampment. Quilana says 1,000 years? Yeah, okay, that's what I thought. Yeah, it's been a good while since I've really checked up on my Dark Souls lore. Should go back and take another look. Now it feels too bright. Turn it back down. It's a bit more. One thing which I really like about the vistas in Elden Ring is all the different skyboxes. I think all the skyboxes are really nice. And they make every area feel distinct. Like all of Limgrave and the Weeping Peninsula has these storm clouds, which then ties in with Stormvale. The Gelmir skybox is gorgeous. I think it looks so cool. Rogier's dialogue about the events is straight up confusing. He uses long before and soon to describe the same event. I don't remember exactly what he says. You'll have to wait till tomorrow for that fix. Oh, so it's about... Okay, oh, this is the next part of the pyromancy. Awesome. River deltas. Okay. Yeah, looking forward to that. Old Hunter. Oh, all right. That's a build. Wing of Vestel, and that's the sacrificial axe. Godfrey's crown. The noble outfit, and is that leather boots? No. Oh, it's Malekith's boots. And gauntlets. take a look at you. Vagabond. Osvaldo, thank you. Yeah, that stream ended up being a bit, I don't know. I kind of lost the thread of a lot of things. My plan, the stuff that I covered in that stream was literally what I thought was going to be the introduction. I thought I would get through all of that in, like, you know, maybe a couple hours at the most. And I didn't. So, where should we go? I guess let's just... if I want to make a poison build... Is there anything that naturally has poison damage? I can't really think of what... There's the scorpion stinger that's rot. So maybe that's the one to go for, but that's quite a ways away. I'd have to defeat Radon for that, I think, right? A little bit too far off. Beautiful. Beautiful. I guess I'll grab this. The snake shield. Oh, yeah, that's a good point. But that's all the way in Volcano Manor. I guess it's possible if you really skipped around to get that. Poison infusion. I don't remember what the wet blade is for poison infusion. Where that is. Is that the black wet blade? No, that's like... Is that the one? That's in Nokron. I think we'll just sort of gallivant around and let's see. Where should we go? I do really like this little introductory thing. I always like the sort of tutorial after the tutorial levels. I think they're always generally pretty well designed. Do we get everyone here? Thinking of like Boletaria 1 and Undead Bird. They're like relatively simple, but those areas are always fun. Go to the Grace near there. Well, I think what I'll do is we'll go and fight this boss, because then that gives, if there's other people that want to pop in, then we'll give other people a chance. So let's go and face this Beastman, who I think is a pretty good enemy, by the way. I think he's, especially considering how easily that kind of enemy could have gone wrong. I'm more appreciative of those situations. Like, Godric is a really good example of that, where I think he's, like, if he existed in Bloodborne, I think that would have been a nightmare. No Oh, that's right. We can't even go inside. That's so weird. The way the multiplayer works is very strange. Some of the things, like the fact that you can't summon once you've beat the main boss of an area, I think that's right. Okay. Well, I'm gonna kick you guys out and then go in here. Sorry. Oop. What is this item? Warming stone. Oh, thank you. Quick download the mod. Godric would have been easy as hell in Bloodborne. I'm not talking about the difficulty necessarily, just like the clarity of his animations and things like that. I think in Bloodborne, it would have... when I say nightmare, I mean like visually a nightmare. Do I need to do this again? Let me just rest here. Yeah, limb damage. That would have been cool. I wish they had... That's another thing I wish they had focused on. We'll just see if anyone pops in. So, let's see. What are we doing? Oh yeah, I should probably get the ability to level up. That would be smart. Godric is like easier after Margit. Yeah. I don't really have a problem with that. I'm not really... I don't really care about the... how difficult something is. Oh, howdy howdy. As long as it's not like extreme. To me that makes sense because Margit is serving a function, like his difficulty is serving a function in the game. And Godric isn't... I mean, he's not a cakewalk, so I don't really have an issue with that. Let's see this build. Wow, this is a weeby build. What are those? Oh, there's a bandit curved sword. Wow. Okay. I wish someone would do a discussion on why fingers are such a big motif. Eyes being a motif in Bloodborne, centipedes in Sekiro, that made a ton of intuitive sense. But the stuff with fingers feels so oddly specific yet random at the same time. One thing which I have considered doing a video on this, and I don't know if I want to, because... well, for various reasons, but there is a lot of meta stuff going on in Elden Ring. I mean, like Gideon Ofnir being a lore hunter, essentially, you know, and the whole idea of like the Elden Ring. You literally, in universe, you change reality according to your interpretation of Elden Ring's lore, right? Because what the mending rune or the ending that you choose is, the ending that you choose is reflective of how you understand the world and like what you decide is the problem with it. So there's a lot of meta stuff. I think the fingers are, at least in part, they're an element of that. We got this weeby mode. What's going on here? What's going on with this? See, okay, that attack... I'm sorry, this is an appreciation stream, so I'm not going to get too annoyed, but that makes no sense to me. It doesn't make any sense to me that wolves attack you like that. It's very weird. Why would wolves hit you with their neck? Why wouldn't they, like, try to bite you? You know? Which they do as well, but It's just, that's a weird thing. There's the beasts gaining digits / hands. Yeah, so I think that's part of it, is like, you know, one of the defining traits of humans is that we have opposable thumbs, and that allows us to use tools, and so that's tied with, like, the development of civilization and thus intelligence, so that's a part of it. You guys gotta, I don't know if I want to summon high level people. Otherwise this is gonna be too silly.
Hey!
How are fingers part of something meta? Oh, because that's how you play the game. Right? With your fingers on the controller. I was talking to someone who was talking about the meta stuff in Eco, how like the horns on Eco are like a controller handles. No, we don't love Moog in this chat. None of that. None of that now. Smash cut to the dance pad people. Did you see the person who used an EEG to play Elden Ring? I don't know if that's fake or not. Theoretically, it sounds possible, although slightly implausible. Wow. My depth perception is off. And also I'm just wiggly. Okay, we need to do a different weapon here. Let's see. Lordsworn Straight Sword. Fantastic weapon. It is actually a very nice looking sword. I think my favorite weapons are always the really simple, sort of medieval ones. And I also like that this sword has a very pointy tip. Because some of the swords, they're sort of, they don't look like they'd be that sharp, actually. So this one is nice. Actually, let me see if I can get a closer up view of it. Yeah. Camera. Let's try that. I'm not just trying to look at Miyazaki's dong. Some nice filigree. It's a very pretty sword. The color, the red and gold is nice. Yeah, I like that it's very pointy. You cannot stop the coming of our dynasty. Why is a Beastman there? I don't know if there's really a huge amount of story there. I mean, I think it's just there's all these ruins around, so he probably fell down from Farum Azula, and he's just been holed up in this cave for however long that's been going on. I don't buy the EEG one. I did EEG projects in school, and we made a tool for paraplegic patients to be able to type stuff, and it's a very limiting framework. No, I don't think they beat the game, but they were skilled enough with it that they could like dodge and use magic, and they had several commands, right? So presumably you would have to have multiple brain states that you could you could trigger with that. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I buy it.
Greetings, traveler from beyond the fog. I am Melina.
It's an interesting brooch. Do a multiplayer Bloodborne stream. You have to face your somewhat hate for the game. I don't
offer
hate
you an
Bloodborne.
accord.
It's just I don't really enjoy it, that's all. I don't
Have you
really like to
heard
play
of the
games that
Finger
I don't enjoy that
Maidens?
much.
They serve the Two Fingers, offering guidance and aid to the tarnished. But you, I am afraid, are maidenless.
Wah, wah, wah.
I can play the role of maiden,
Melina waifu.
turning runes into strength.
I will be
aid you
talking about
in your
this actually
search for the
in
Elden
my
ring.
video, why
You need only take me
maidens
with you
specifically are able to turn runes into strength.
to the foot of the Erd Tree. Then it's settled. Summon me by
Now,
grace.
You
to
could
turn
make the
runes
criticism
into
of that
strength.
decision that it's sort of not a
Ah, another matter.
there's
I
there's
bequeath
not
to you
much
this ring.
consequence to it because you can always make the decision again if you choose to
Use
refuse.
it to traverse
Um,
great distances.
But
It will
I
summon
think
a
that's
spectral
it's a
steed.
net positive to have
named
that
Torrent.
choice because anytime that you make the player
Torrent has chosen you.
choose to do something, it
Treat him
it
with
makes you feel
respect.
like you're more engaged with the game, I think. And I mean, it does actually have an effect in that you can't use torrent or level up until you decide to accept. I think it would have been better if they allowed you to play through the entire game without accepting it, though. I think that would have been better. I remember seeing a guy play Final Fantasy CIV with his mind, but that was with a full-on brain implant. Oh, I see, 14. Yeah, CIV would be, was that 54, I think. C is 50? No, C is 100. Like century. It would be 104. They really should have made her show up on torrent behind you while you were riding around randomly just to be with you. They should have gone the full waifu route with her too. It's interesting how each of the games has like a similar sort of maiden character. I mean, all doing different things and with a different role in the story, but like the same idea. And Dark Souls is kind of the only one that doesn't, and that was originally going to be Priscilla, and then they changed things, but I would have been curious to see what that version of Dark Souls would have looked like. L is 50, that's right, thanks. The bosses in Demon Souls have great ideas behind them, but they don't have many attacks and too low health. Well, I don't see a problem with them having... I mean, what's the right number of attacks? I don't know what... I don't really know what that has to do with it. Too low health. The only one that I really agree about that with is Penetrator. Because I think the game encourages you to kind of approach each of the archstones, roughly speaking, like kind of simultaneously. And with that in mind, by the time you get to Penetrator, I don't think he's Well, I mean, in order to reach Penetrator, you have to have defeated an Archdemon already. And in doing that, assuming that you didn't just go straight through one of the levels and that's it, like if you've played any of the other Archstones at all and you've like kind of been in the game for a while, by the time you reach Penetrator, he is kind of a pushover. And that's a little bit disappointing, mostly because of just how he's presented. Like, he's presented as a really imposing figure, and then he ends up being not so much. Especially if you free Bjor. What was I doing? I was going to activate this thing. We gotta get some more flowers. Let's see, but let's head somewhere. Actually, let's level up first. Been watching your video this past week. Just wanted to pop in and say they're great, and I love listening. Keep it up. Hope DLC actually comes out so there's more lore to talk about. Thank you very much, Digit HXI. I appreciate it. And yeah, I also hope that there is DLC. I think it's very likely there is. So, now we gotta decide what kind of build. Well, an obvious choice would be to level up Vigor. Mind. Great Mind, Miyazaki, that makes sense. Endurance, Strength, Dexterity, Intelligence. Definitely intelligent guy. Faith, Arcane. I think let's go with Vigor. Gotta level up Vig, you know. Oops. You want to explore? Alright, I'll bring you back in. Yeah, I think we'll just wander around a bit. And, people can sort of pop in. I'll try to remain at the races for a little bit just to see if people want to pop in there. Thanks for making such great content. Can't wait to see your channel grow. Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, I've got some plans. I do want to make some content not Souls related at some point. I've been thinking about doing a video on Halo, but I'm a little bit concerned about the copyright issues there. This is very pretty. This is a very pretty game. Very pretty game. Come on. Get back here. Level up Vigor. Vig maxing, exactly. Would be nice, especially as a fan, long fan of the series. Just sad to see the states it's been left in. Guess you enjoyed Infinite? No, I did not enjoy Infinite, except on a sort of ironic level. I think Infinite's a kind of a hilarious disaster. It's not as disgusting as Halo 4 and 5, but it's pretty dumb. Pretty dumb. If you've seen the meme faces of what's her name, the new not Cortana. I'll honestly forget her name now. What is her name? Whatever the new not Cortana AI is. Like her cringe face, that kind of summarizes my feelings on, yo, get up this cliff. That kind of summarizes my feelings on Infinite. Godfrey for Golden, humiliated, having tasted defeat by the blade of Nicola, now on his knees begging for mercy. There is a confusing bit of this, which is like, why would Melania defeat Godric but not take his rune? You know? If the demigods were fighting and they're like all... The presumption is like they're all in a kind of stalemate where they couldn't acquire enough great runes to become Elden Lord. But... yeah, I don't know. Borgana. Krobcat's video summarized my pain of the series. Yeah, Krobcat has some of the greatest content. I love Krobcat's videos. The Game Awards videos that he has are just fantastic. They're just great. Such beautiful cringe. There's a great video by... actually, if you give me a second, I can find the channel name. There was a great review of Halo 4 by a channel called... God, I need a new computer. This is so slow. Where is it? What's his name? I'll put it in the chat because it is really a fantastic video for anyone that's interested in Halo. Where is it? Let me just look it up. Halo 4. Review. Oh yeah, Halo 4 is worse than you remember. Don't start playing. Come on. Wow, this is so slow. Highly recommend this video. It's in 2 parts. Just perfectly captures everything about the problems with, oh, thank you. Thank you for the runes. That's a lot of runes. I think I want to head south. I think it's really nice south. I like the Weeping Peninsula, that whole area. And we'll talk to Bach on the way. Yeah, really fantastic series, and he's making a video on Infinite. I think the first part is out, but not the second part, unless he posted it and I missed it. But he really captures everything, all the problems with it.
You? Yeah. What'd you go and do that for? Oh, yes. I remember. Some clod turned me into a tree. You were just breaking the spell, weren't you?
I can't see what his eyes look like exactly.
The name's Bok. I was pushed out of the cave. Told not to come back. Not ever. Then I ended up as a tree.
I can't tell. Is he a monkey
you came
or is he
along
more
with
of a... Looks more like a dog, actually. Like were-dog kind of thing. Those aren't monkey ears, and he's got more of a snout than a monkey. I always sort of assumed he was like a monkey, but...
Oh, when they threw me out, and so this is all I hope he...
I remember being really disappointed from what I saw of Halo 4 as a child. Oh, hello, Crozy. Welcome.
Or
We're just having some
if you
fun
could
here. We're not really
afford
doing
to wait
anything
for goods,
that intense.
then
Yeah, Halo 4 is just a horrible experience all around. It's horrible to look at. It's horrible gameplay. Just everything about it is just it's just painful. Halo 5, maybe more so. Probably more so. I've played it less recently because it's not on the Master Chief Collection, so I don't know. But Halo Infinite, like, it looks a bit better. It's not as horrible, but it's still kind of a disaster. Like, 343. Well, it seems like 343 is just collapsing now. They fired all these people now. Hi. What does he drop again? Oh no! Looks like a mouse to me. He's even got the needle and thread like a mouse knight would have. Yeah, maybe rodent-like. I'd have to look up close at the other demi-humans to see. My impression was sort of wolf-like with them, but maybe it's more rodent-like. Because there's 3 other types of the small guys, right? There's like the really small, fast ones. There's the bigger, more heavy-set ones, and then there's the really big ones that are still on 2 feet. Then there's the chiefs, I think they're called, and they're more wolf-like. And then there's the queens. I think that's all the different types. I wish they had used the smaller ones in more places, because I think that would have added some variety. Let's see if anyone's here. Oh. Anhuri? He's a macaque-style monkey? What are you guys smoking? Yeah, maybe. The smaller ones seemed monkey-like to me. But I'd have to sort of look at the... I mean, like, a monkey is kind of a more... a beastlier-looking human. So if you took a human and then put, like, generic rodent or canine features on them, they would look monkey-ish to some degree. So I don't know if that's just a coincidence or if that's deliberate. Queens and chieftains look wolfy to me, and the little ones are more primate-like. That was my impression, but I'd have to look at them closely. Should bring up the concept art. Unable to summon? Oh no, hold on. Let's try that again. Unable to summon. I don't think that's on my end. Although, I don't know. It seems like it's gotten better. I do remember early on a lot of the summoning issues with Elden Ring. The only reason that I think it might make more sense for them to be sort of wolf-like is because of all the sort of things tying wolves to humans, as if they're like the idea of shadows and Empyreans, and also Radigan's Red Wolf, and I'm just gonna wait here for a second to see if that person comes back. And also, there was something else with the wolves. Oh, here we go.
Hey!
Ragnar, what was it? Ragnar Lothbrok. Oh, I should have gotten I gotta go get the binoculars. I'm just gonna be running around. Frost axe. Oh no, that's the Highland axe. but with a... Running. Do you ever think sometimes they just threw everything in the kitchen sink into this game and really didn't concern themselves with seeing if it would connect in the end? I don't think that's exactly the case, but I think... So there's an interview... There's an interview that Miyazaki did. He appeared on a podcast. Maybe... It was around right after Dark Souls came out. And he said... The interviewer asked him, like, how did he design the game? And he said that, like, basically we came up with the levels without any narrative. And then we built the game, like, the story around that. I don't want to trigger these knights. We built the levels around that. And, and he said something else like, it's story for the game for me rather than game for the story. And, that is one thing which Dark Souls 3 started that. I don't like the fact that you can get locked in the backstab animation. Sorry, I got distracted there. Yeah, so he said it's story for the game rather than game for the story. And so I think that that's the way that he likes to operate. He likes to create a game and then build the story around that. And, I was trying to bow. So I'm not paying too much attention right now. So what was I talking about? I just got completely distracted by that. Oh, did they just throw things in without really considering what they were doing story-wise? I think the thing is, like, I think that's sort of how... I think that's actually how a lot of video game developers operate. Like, maybe some games you start with the story idea, but a lot of it you're sort of piecing it together at the same time as you're piecing the game together. And usually, with a lot of games, you're more focused on, like, what the game is rather than what the story is. So you're putting together like a level or something like that, and then you'll make the story provide some narrative context for why the level works that way. But usually you're coming up with the level ideas, you're coming up with the gameplay ideas first. So, but I think Miyazaki is really good at that process, at retconning some kind of gameplay element and providing narrative context for it. So I think for him, I think there is a complete answer for everything in Elden Ring. But I don't think he wants to give it. I find the isolated areas of the lore are very fleshed out, and they'll even reinforce each other sometimes, but it's when you try to step back and get a cohesive view that it doesn't click. Yeah, iterative development, exactly. Like, I think that's really how you build a game. Like, it's, relatively speaking, it's very new to have, like, complex stories for games. It really hasn't been around that long. Like, it wasn't that long ago that, like, House of the Dead was, like, the level of storytelling that you'd have, you know? It's only in in the last, what, 20 years that we've started to get really complex stories. And I think people still, you build games as games first, you know. So okay. Where are we going? I'm just kind of wandering right now. Is this the flail? No, great axe? That's right, great axe. I'm assuming I'm too weak for that now. 30 strength, so it'd be what, 20? Lord Sworn's greatsword. Let's just take a look at this one. I don't really like that bit at the bottom. There's something about that. I don't like that it's... I wish it was a blade the whole way. Feels kind of weird to have that just be... I'm assuming that's like a style of sword. I've never seen anything like that. Maybe it's to help you like grip it better or something. Hey. Oh, I still can't use this? Alright, well, I'll go back to my other sword. It's easier to go back and forth from the drawing board than, say, plan 100% and then fail in implementing. Yeah, I mean, that's a big part of it, is that you don't really know how things are going to turn out. Like, you can't perfectly plan video game development. It's just, it's like the old thing about, like, oh, the way to avoid bugs is just write clean code, you know. Like, well, that's nice in theory, but basically impossible in practice. So I think that's part of it, is you just don't know how development's going to turn out. And part of it is, like, I think with Miyazaki specifically, he shines at the practice of coming up with narrative context for gameplay ideas. Like, that's the whole reason that all of the games have narrative context for respawning. You know, that was something that Demon's Souls started, and very few games have ever done that. You just sort of accept the fact that canonically, like, the last, 20 minutes before the checkpoint, or after the checkpoint didn't happen, and then you're just, like, retrying it, that it's something outside of the game, and Miyazaki decided that, like, no, let's make this narratively cohesive. We were going to go to the Weeping Peninsula. Yeah, I'm going to stop at this Grace over here, so if anyone's there, they can pop into the stream. I'll just say it again for anyone who's... I don't know if people joined in, that the multiplayer password is Crunchy, all lowercase. So you can pop in, or invade if you want. Looks like the foil coming off a chocolate bar. Yeah, I don't know. I don't really like that design. I mean, one of the things about, if you look into Dark Souls 3 and how drastically the story of that changed throughout development, like, the original plan for that was very, very different. And a lot of the, like, Wolnir, Yorm, the Soul of Cinder, like, these are totally different characters that were recontextualized throughout development. Yorm was like a normal-sized guy named Halleck at one point. Wolnir was a Covenant leader. I don't even remember if he was actually a boss initially. Soul of Cinder appears to have been an NPC and may have been the original form of what became Henri. Pontiff Sullivan was the final boss. He was a guy named the Old King of the Eclipse. Like, just totally different story. Characters moved around, areas cut. And while you do get the feeling, I think, in Dark Souls 3 of that to some extent. Oh, I was going to just check out to see if anybody put their sign down at the Grace. I'll do that. It's amazing that Dark Souls 3, the retail version, makes as much sense as it does, considering how much was changed. So... God, I do like this square off. That's a fun ash. I liked the idea of Sullivan being the villain. In fact, he was enemy to both the player and the Gwyn line. Yeah, one of the funny things about Dark Souls 3 is how, like, in Dark Souls 1, the painted world was kind of a place where they put anything that wasn't, didn't, like, quite fit into the game. Like, they didn't have a good place for it. So they just put it in the painting, you know. Like the old King of Islith, they cut that, and so he's King Xanthus, King Jeremiah. He's just stuck in there. A lot of the Velka stuff is just stuck in there. Priscilla's stuck in there. So it's just like a bunch of, like, oh yeah, the Phalanx from Demon Souls. He's just stuck. They're just stuck in there. All right, let's check out this. Let's check out this drip for a second. Let's check out this drip. I want to check out this drip. So we got the Zamor. What's the boots there? Is that Black Knife boots? Or is that scaled boots? Can't actually tell. Scale? Maybe that's the scale armor boots? Can't remember. And... I've got those pointed shoes. That looks more like the Black Knife ones. I don't remember. Yeah, so I was saying with the painting, like, they just threw all this stuff in the painting in Dark Souls 1, and then in Dark Souls 3, like, all of that stuff gets, like, the Pontiff stuff, like, oh yeah, he just came from the painting. That's how, that's his new story. He came from the painting. When the drip is so dense, it becomes sap. Where did Howdy end up? Still back there somewhere. He'll make his way over here. I haven't really been talking about Elden Ring that much, but I do really like pretty much all these areas in Limgrave and the Weeping Peninsula. I like these, I think one of the things that stands out about Limgrave and the Weeping Peninsula in particular, which I don't get as much from the other areas, is this sense that there's like a bunch of little set pieces going on. Like this whole bridge thing with the, like they're very organically put in the world, but they're just little set pieces that it doesn't feel like, it doesn't feel as haphazard as, oh, there's a barrier here? Again, that's so weird. Can I fight through the barrier? Wow, that's incredibly weird. Why? I don't understand why. I mean, there must be some kind of optimization reason for that. But that's so odd. All right, well, let's meet up at the next bonfire, or the next whatever grace. It's a bonfire, you know what I mean. Very odd. You can actually destroy these. I don't remember if it stays destroyed when you come back. I don't think so. So it feels kind of pointless to destroy them, but I do like that you can destroy them. Yeah, but I think having these little set pieces in the world, there's something nice about that, that like every little location is kind of its own idea. It's something that once you get into like the swamp of Liurnia, and then with to a lesser extent with Gelmir and Altus Plateau. Altus Plateau is a bit more of that again, but there's like a thing going on for each section, you know. I think that's really nice. So I'll wait here for anyone who wants to pop in. Oh, you were taking a picture of Stormvale in the distance? Yeah, there are some very pretty vistas. I don't think enough people have drawn attention to. Actually, there's two things I want to draw attention to. First is just how from a game design point of view, what a great thing it is to have the Erd tree. Like, it orients you anywhere you are on the map. It just makes it super clear what the game is about. And I think that they really didn't need the map, actually. I think it would have been better without the map, because you have the Erd tree at all times. The other thing I want to point out is just how strange it is that the Erd tree is completely white, the way that it appears here, and translucent. And then you see how the leaves almost don't look like leaves? Like there's some like mottled leaves on the branches, but like the gold part of it almost looks like a golden nebula. And the concept art in the intro, it makes it kind of look like the world, like the sky is coming from the Erd tree's leaves. So there's something weird going on there. Maybe we'll go on to Castle Morn. I really like Castle Morn. It's kind of goofy how we can always respawn in these games thanks to something in the narrative, but none of the enemies or bosses ever do. It's like ridiculously rigged in our favor. I think there is I don't know, it depends on how you look at it. Like if you're coming at it from the perspective of how does the story make sense? Yeah, maybe it's a little silly. If you're coming at it from the perspective of like how the game is engaging you in the world, I think maybe there's a way they could do it better, but I think compared to what exists out there, it's a really nice way to make you feel like your actions have consequence. Because like it means that everything you do in the world to some degree is like canonically affecting the world, which is not the case with games that that have like more normal checkpoints that aren't contextualized within the narrative. And so you can feel like, well, that run that I was doing through the boss, like that didn't really matter. Whereas to some degree it feels more like it matters because it's contextualized
Hello?
within the narrative.
Is somebody there? Might I bend your ear for a moment, please? My name is Irina. I've escaped from Castle Morn.
Oh, your name is
to the
Irina?
south.
And you escaped
The
from Castle
servants there
Morn?
have rebelled.
That's interesting. I wonder where I've heard those
I can't
names
be sure
before.
what it is. My eyesight's been weak since birth, you see. But I swear I heard frightful howling from all over. My good father secreted me out the castle, but decided himself to stay. He says it's his duty. As commander.
I used to think it was very weird that all the soldiers of Elden Ring had the same exact armor design, but then I remembered that the demigods stem off from the Golden Order, so everyone's armor would be the same. Yeah, I think it's all, like, Shattering era armor, which there's two interesting features to that, one of which is that the Kakunites also share that style of armor. Which would sort of indicate that they probably came from the same time period around the Shattering, which is interesting. And then the other one is the Mausoleum Knights, because they also have the same type of armor. And that's a bit stranger, because they're not so clearly affiliated with a particular person. Although I think the most likely person is either Mikola or Godwyn. Probably Mikola, though, because, well, that just brings up all the issues with what exactly is going on with the Mausoleums. Why are they, like, who is inside exactly? Who are these demigods? Still don't know about that. I am amused by connections to previous games, although I wonder how many times Miyazaki can recycle these ideas before he makes Dark Souls 4 or Bloodborne 2. I don't think Miyazaki wants to make Dark Souls 4 or Bloodborne 2, unless you meant just, like, accidentally by recycling the ideas. But I mean, I think he's spoken many times about how he wants to, he thinks that it's important to, like, move onwards and create new IPs, and that's the best way that they can develop as a company. And I think that was, like, Dark Souls 3, if you read between the lines, it's pretty clear that, like, originally that was going to be a really apocalyptic ending to the game, and then Bandai stepped in and basically made him leave the possibility open for a sequel. And then what you get in the game, and especially what you get in the DLCs, is this sense that, like, you have to leave it all behind. You have to create a new painting. You have to create a new game. You have to not just keep on recycling the same thing in the world. So my big question is whether there'll be an Elden Ring 2. Because you don't do something George R.R. Martin as a lol one-off. I don't know. I mean, I honestly don't know about that. I don't... My sense... If I had to bet, I would say there won't be an Elden Ring 2. But I could see them developing, like, almost a live service model with DLCs, where, as you know, as long as it was profitable, that they would make, like, substantial story-based DLCs. I would believe something more like that than an Elden Ring 2. I just don't really get what you would do with an Elden Ring 2, both from a game design perspective and from a story perspective. And it feels like Miyazaki would be more concerned with creating a new game entirely. DS3 being about dragging all these dudes who don't want to do their job anymore to keep doing the same thing they've been doing for years is pretty funny. Yeah, I mean, this is the thing. There's a lot of meta stuff going on, especially in DS3, especially in the DLCs to DS3 and also in Elden Ring. I think he's... And normally I'm like I'm very turned off by meta stuff. Like I find it usually pretty cringe because Matthew Matosis had a video on his meta micro videos where he had a great line about how like meta is like an infinity mirror where it has this illusion of depth, but it's like surface level. And so a lot of sources of media, they tend to rely on meta as a way to project an illusion of depth when in fact they're not really saying anything that deep. But I think the meta stuff in PS3 and in Elden Ring is pretty it's supported by like an actual story. So the meta stuff isn't like the center of the game. It isn't the focus of the game. It's just like another layer added on top of it. So that doesn't bother me as much. But I will recommend, for anyone who's interested in that side of things, Radatosker did a video on... There's two videos, actually. One on the painting in the DLC to Dark Souls 3, and also one on the recurring theme of all the Souls games. Those are both great videos, and I pretty much agree with all of that. Dogs, they've always been a pain, will always be a pain. Okay. Nice hitbox. What is DS3 story summary? Oh god. DS3 story summary. Oh. Howdy dog. No. Wow, that was terrible. Ah, come on. Wow. Dogs. Unironically do a DS2 and make it just set in a totally different land. Yeah, if they were gonna do a sequel, that's what I would imagine. Like you gotta separate it from this game to some degree, because otherwise, I mean, it's part of that like contextualizing the game with the narrative after the fact. Like if you're committed to setting it in the same world, I mean, obviously if you do Elden Ring 2, like it's got to be about the Elden Ring, and so it's got to be sort of in the same world to some degree, but you can separate that to some level, and I think that's what you would want to do, because otherwise you're sort of constrained by what you can put in the game. And I don't think they would want to do that. A guy who was born to be sacrificed didn't want to be sacrificed, so previously sacrificed were resurrected to sacrifice themselves, but didn't want to be sacrificed again. So you were also resurrected after failing to become a Lord of Cinders to sacrifice them all. Yeah, that's basically it. I guess I'll go up to the thingy. Unless people are down here. Doesn't look like it. Big time jump. Yeah, I mean, there's ways that you can do that you can separate it from this world. There's ways that you could do that, and it wouldn't have to... I mean, who knows exactly how the cosmology of this game works anyway, and you could just retcon it, because if it's not super clear now, then isn't anything for it to conflict with exactly, you know what I mean? So, there's definitely ways that you could separate it. What were they sacrificing? Their souls. Wow, I really hate dogs. Not real life dogs. I like real life dogs. I hate these dogs. Yeah, the meta stuff in Elden Ring, I had more stuff about that besides, I mean, the Elden Ring itself. Oh, but also, this is like a pretty conspiratorial level of theory, but the naming of America, like if you just put it in these terms, there's a god called America who's turning everything gold, and this has led to like corruption. If you think that America is maybe America, very possibly, I don't know, maybe that's a little bit too deep, but definitely the idea of like gold being, I don't know. I don't think it's a coincidence that Elden Ring is, like, their biggest moneymaker. You know what I mean? I think there's lots of implications on that meta level. I see you bring comfort to those who are binded by dread at the worst of times, giving many a day to no longer fray. You are amazing. Have a nice day. Stay safe and enjoy life. That's referring to that me? Wow, thank you, Black Prism. That's very kind, although I don't really know what that's referring to. If you're talking about my videos, that's kind of, seems a little bit over the top, honestly. But, unless you're talking about something else. I hope they don't. The stuff I liked about this game was exploring the map and having my perceptions of how big it could be get shattered over and over again. I don't think you can repeat that. Yeah, I mean, I think it depends on what they want to do. Like, if you do open world again, I don't think it would make... Oh, God. That was dumb. I don't think it would make sense to kind of stick with Elden Ring. I think it would make more sense to take what they learned from trying open world for the first time and put it in a totally different context, totally different gameplay. Like, if you make an Elden Ring 2, you still have to... You can change some things, but you still have to have, you know, the fundamental gameplay loop be roughly similar. And from a development standpoint, I think that would constrain them too much. And I think Miyazaki's aware of that. I don't think he would want to... I think one thing that's possible is that he would delegate a sequel to someone else while he sort of works more closely. Like, maybe Tanimura would do a sequel while he works on something that he wants to work on. And I think, considering how FromSoft is growing, I think it would make sense for them to start having multiple teams and releasing games, like, maybe even every year. So. Thinking about the original draft of DS3 makes me sad. Like, I know it's easy to look at, cut content in old versions and think, oh, this would have been so much better. But there are other games that have drastic last-minute story changes that I enjoy. Yeah, I mean, I also feel like I wish I could have seen the, I wish I could have seen that original plan. And to me, I don't have a problem with drastically changing the story through development. I think that's just part of the development process. However, I do think that it seems like it was more of a studio intervention thing. It seems like it was a Bandai sort of executive type decision, which I'm not super happy about that. Like, if you look up that pic from the picture from the No that was released like before anything else, it's such a cool looking game, and like the idea of going around in the age of dark and everything's dark and using a torch to light up areas, and then there's like crazy eclipse stuff going on, and it just seems more dramatic. You shouldn't have killed him. You know, if you can bring him over and he will actually fight all the misbegotten, it's pretty fun. How did that hit me? What was going on there? Bro. Chill. Chill. Actually, maybe I'll use that. I don't think I've ever used the Iron Cleaver. Let's try it. What's the moveset like? Classic. There's like a little run. Pretty simplistic, honestly. I kind of like that. Wasted by your own petard. Oops. Oh, that's a terrible attack. There's no lead up to that. When you shat on Radigan and praised Elden Beast, you shone a light into my dark and dreary life. The cries of all the NPCs that I got angry at you for saying that were like the songs of angels. Yeah. The Soul of Cinder in DS3 was the fusion of previous Lords of Cinders. Yeah. Yeah, he's basically like the spirit of all of the Lords of Cinders who have existed. And that's why he, gameplay-wise, he like shifts between different modes. So he'll like take on a sorcerer mode, or he'll become like a spear guy, or a sword guy, or a pyromancer dude. Alright, I don't really like this Iron Cleaver. Oh, I'm gonna have to be better than that. Let's try the Morning Star. I don't remember if I've used this. You were fighting Gwyn from DS1, as well as presumably your characters from DS1 and DS2. Yeah, and maybe who knows how many others. I just forgot how much I like the hammers. Actually, just the generic hammer is such a fun weapon. I really like that moveset. Just the way it looks and feels. How did all these random... I think the Misbegotten are pretty good enemies overall. Oh, you know, the next thing I gotta do is get the binoculars so I can start looking at stuff. How did all these people pile up here? Well, one of the things I suggested in my Crucible video was that... Oh, good job, Howdy. Was that maybe this is how the Misbegotten were created. That actually burning these bodies, that is the Crucible itself. It's the blending of life through fire. And that's how the Misbegotten were people who got too close to that. And because of that, they turned into Misbegotten. There is a bit of confusion there, though, because I think something says that the Misbegotten are born that way. It's the same thing with the Omens. Like, there's sort of conflicting ideas about whether they're born that way or whether they kind of get transformed over time. Hey, that was supposed to stagger you. I guess the Morningstar doesn't stagger as easily. I think I've read so much lore and heard so many people go, hey, you know these really ugly things that are hunted for being weird and having strange traditions? Actually, they're good. That now I've... Okay, I'll wait for the second part of that. My theory was that Shabiri looks for creatures that are mistreated, hits them with his howl, and then the creatures go crazy and become violent. I think it's interesting how in retrospect DS2 seems to get way more love than DS3 in direct contrast to how it was back in the day. Yeah, that's a bit... I mean, I think you can praise them for different things. DS2 did do a lot of experimental stuff, which hasn't really returned. And I guess you can appreciate that element of it. DS3 didn't really experiment that much with the core gameplay. So, I honestly, I don't really know what... But, I don't know. I don't really know what people see in DS2. It doesn't speak to me at all. There's too many things that just bother the heck out of me. I mean, one of them just being the movement. The fact that you have that orientation snapping. I can't stand that. And it feels like you're fighting the controller the entire game. I think Begotten and Scion imply born. Yeah, one thing because the 1.0 version says that thing about them being a Radigan Chimera. And a Chimera, you would usually imply like something happened to them. They were merged with something. Maybe not, but that was sort of my takeaway. But yeah, Misbegotten, that would imply they are born faulty. I have very mixed feelings about DS2. Overall, I think of it as an anime filler arc. That's a pretty good way to put it. Yeah, I mean, I definitely have issues with DS3. but I mean, I don't know. I put in a lot of time to that game, and I do think like now that Elden Ring exists, I think it does basically everything that DS3 did, but better. So I don't really see, like, even though I really don't enjoy Dark Souls 2, I can at least see how there's it is kind of a different niche. Whereas DS3, besides just, like, a dark aesthetic, it's sort of more like a worse version of Elden Ring at this point. So I don't feel like it has the staying power that some of the other games do, because it's just been sort of improved as far as I'm concerned. DS3 is the worst Souls game? No, I don't think so. I think DS2 is a worse game. I guess it depends on how you're judging it, but I mean, DS2 has so many technical problems. I can't, you know, like, maybe conceptually, but even conceptually, like, there's just too much of the lore seems like fan fiction. I can't really get invested in it either. But yeah, there's just so many technical problems, like... Oh no, howdy. Come to this grace, and I'll summon you again. Repeated textures, like I said, the orientation snapping. I don't know why more people don't talk about that, because it's... To me, it was never not on my mind the entire time that I played the game. Just the fact that I couldn't move in a natural and intuitive way. Like walking, running it takes up a pretty good proportion of playtime. So when that's screwed up, like, and for a completely mysterious reason that doesn't make any sense to me, I don't know why you would design a game like that. But then, yeah, repeated textures, hitboxes, a lot of terrible animations. Well, you know what? This gives me a chance to level up, which I should probably do. We'll level up some vigor. We'll level up some strength. And we'll level up intelligence? I don't want to play as a maid. No, I think we'll just level up more vigor. You don't have the grace unlocked? Let me set this up again. DS3 has always had identity issues. Everything it does I can get in other games. Yeah, that's the biggest problem, but I think it's still, the execution is so much better than DS2. There are actually, there are technical issues in DS3. Like, there are pop-in textures, there are, the whole game has a weird reflective, like, something is messed up with the shaders, the specular's turned up too high. It's very gray and shiny. Even if you turn the brightness down all the way, DS3 is very shiny, it's very weird. And the anti-aliasing is really bad, especially on console. Everything it does is a continuation of what was done in other FromSoft games. Oh, I missed this. The second part of that message basically said that I've heard the same, actually this monster thing is awesome sauce thing so many times that I've gone full circle into supporting the established order. I kind of know what you mean. Like, I don't know. I think you have to... I think you have to approach Elden Ring as if you have never played any of the Souls games. I shouldn't say that you have to, but I think that it's more intended for new players than it is for veterans of the series. And so I always try to meet a game on its own terms, if I can, and I think that's the way it wants to be played and approached, so that's how I try to approach it. You think everything in DS3 looks like plastic? Yeah, it's... My suspicion is that because it was originally planned to be set in an Age of the Dark, that the shaders were designed for that setting, which would mean that, like, technically speaking, what you want, if everything's dark in the game, like, you don't want to just not be able to see anything because you want to show how the game looks. Like, you don't want to just have a game that's completely dark. So the way that you sort of solve that problem is you keep the light down, but you increase things like the specular in shaders so that they're more reflective so that they catch your eye. And that would make sense. And then if you just suddenly add a bunch of ambient lighting and directional lighting and change the skyboxes, then suddenly everything has this like really bright reflective look. And combined with the bad anti-aliasing, it doesn't look very good. When ER came out, did you play it daily till you beat it? I played every day, exploring every nook and cranny until I completed Lendel and Deeproot. For some reason, past that felt like work. Oh, I forgot to actually do this. Oops. There we go. I played pretty... Yeah, I mean, I've definitely played every day. I don't know that it ever felt like work to me. I mean, I was enjoying it. I spent a bunch of time in Limgrave because I didn't really realize the extent of how big the map was. And then as the game progressed, I explored less and less. Yeah, I mean, I think the mountaintops... I mean, I pointed this out in my critique. I think that it is very weird, the fact that, like... Let's see. Can we see the Erd tree here? Oh, it's kind of hidden. Oh, there it is. It's over there. So, like, you can see the Erd tree from anywhere on the map, and roughly speaking, you're getting closer and closer to it. And, like, yeah, stand before the Elden Ring, like this giant golden thing. This is where you're going. You're going to the Erd tree. And then you get there, and then it's like, okay, actually, no, you have to go off this other direction up to a mountain, and then you have to teleport around to, like, a flying city, and then come back. And that whole... The pacing of all that is really odd to me. And so part of that is it makes the mountaintops feel... just strange. It just feels like what am I doing here exactly? Just the way that's communicated is kind of odd. Oh my! I might have to stop soon because my voice is going and I'm getting stuffed up. Oh, I never spoke to what's his name. Should be able to use it, right? Yeah, okay. Most times I explored, I got weapons and spells I couldn't use or didn't fit the build, so eventually I just stopped. I like him as a boss. I think he's a good one. Yeah, I mean, the reward issue is not specific to Elden Ring. That's really an issue with every open world game. I think it's kind of a shame that open world has become so popular because I didn't realize this was called Moan Grave. That's a pretty epic name. I like that name. Yeah, I think it's kind of a bummer because there are lots of problems with open world design, I think, inherently. There are issues with an open world, and they all have to do with pacing and rewards. Because when you design a linear game, you know exactly how players are going to get through something. Like, theoretically, you might get stuck, and, like, people will get stuck in different places for a linear game. But when you have an open world game, you have no idea. It's much the difference between how players will encounter a particular thing, a particular area, a particular enemy, a particular whatever, any part of the game. You don't really know what they're bringing to the table. And so you kind of have to design everything. You have to, like, equalize everything. You have to design it so that nothing is too...
May I have a word?
Nothing is too powerful. Nothing is too big of a reward, no matter where you go. You have to kind of equalize everything to accommodate for the fact that people could go, you could just walk all the way north and go straight up to the gates of Lendel if you want. So, like, yeah, obviously there's a little bit of the further on in the open world. Like, the further you go from the starting position, the higher the rewards will be, like, the greater the rewards will be. But there is that problem of, like, you can't really develop a progression in the open world. So everything kind of has to be, either you do something which is like semi-open world, where you have, and Elden Ring kind of does this, where it's roughly speaking a giant line. It's just it's like a really wide line which leads you to Lendel, and then it narrows and it becomes super linear. Mountaintops is a little more linear, and then Farum Azula, like, yes, technically within Farum Azula you can go around, but there's, like, pretty much one path. And then it's just a boss rush at the end. So this is something that Breath of the Wild had a big problem with, was rewards. And then you combine that with, like, the incredible build variety, and so what else are you supposed to do? Like, yeah, a lot of the time you explore, you're going to get rewards that are not that rewarding. And that's mainly because... I think that's mainly because of the open world, and it's also partly because of the build variety and just the way that these games work, but... I think it could have worked well if there was some kind of hidden secret we discovered in the mountaintops that gave it more of a narrative thrust, like maybe something about Radigan America. Yeah, it's just a little less dense. And in terms of the pacing of the game overall, like, once you've reached that bottleneck of Lendel, I think it would have been smarter to actually to either go full in on the linearity or go full in on the open world, and it kind of splits the difference because it is a big open area that you can explore, but it's not really that exciting to explore. Whereas if it had just been like, if it had been even more compressed and more straightforward, I think that would have been better. Or if you had had more variety and more like different sub areas within the mountaintops that were more varied from each other, that could have also been good. So that there's still like that open world exploration. Or if it connected to, I mean, because all of the mountaintops is sort of separated from the rest of the world by a loading screen, which is another issue, but I feel like I play these games very differently from most people because I'm always more interested in piecing together the lore than the actual gameplay. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I feel like, can't you do both? I feel like I try to do both. I don't think it's, like, you can't completely separate narrative and gameplay. People do just to simplify things, but, like, that is part of, those are part of the game. They're inextricably tied together. Like, the way that something looks affects the way that you approach it gameplay-wise, and so it's all part of the same thing in my head. I think it's really telling to ER's mainline narrative being weak that during the first couple days of it being out, that the Ronnie ending was like 30% higher achieved than the regular ending. I don't see why that would be. Why that would speak to the narrative being weak. If anything, that indicates that people really were invested in the narrative. It's not like the Age of Fracture is the canonical ending of the game. By the same token, because I'd explored everything inside out and never risked any runes, I was so strong I was pancaking everything first try. Even Melania I killed blind first try with 7 heals remaining. I have no idea how you did that. That seems ridiculous. I mean, I thought I was fairly overpowered by the end of the game, but I still had plenty of trouble with Gurranq and Melania and all the end game bosses. So even if I found items, armor, spells that I couldn't use, I was still happy because usually they could reveal something about the lore. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, I don't mean to say that, like, when you find something that doesn't suit your build, it's a complete loss. Like, it's still, you're still getting something, and that kind of plays into the respecs as well. So there is even a gameplay advantage. Just technically, you're choosing not to take advantage of it. And maybe you receive something which encourages you to try, like, oh, that's a cool spell. Maybe I should put some more points into intelligence so that I can use it. Something like that. But yeah, you can definitely have a reward which is purely a narrative reward. I don't have any issues with that. I think that's an important part of game design as well. So as someone who generally doesn't like open world games, I love Elden Ring, and yet I think its biggest flaw is that it's an open world game, if that makes sense. Yeah, that kind of does make sense, and I sort of agree, although I might put it in different terms. I mean it in the sense of Ronnie's ending being ostensibly a side quest. I feel that if a side quest is massively overshadowing the main quest, then there is something really wrong with the main quest. I sort of take issue with characterizing it as main quest or side quest. I think, if anything, the existence of a completely separate, separately designed cutscene for the Ronnie and the Flame of Frenzy endings kind of indicate that those are the two most important endings. But I don't think it's a... I wouldn't put it in terms of quests exactly. Like, it's just different story elements, and you get to decide... You know, if people were interested enough in Ronnie's story, like that seemed pretty important to the game, and people were interested in it, so that would tell me that they're interested in the story. I don't see that as being like in conflict with, oh, if they like that more than the main story. I don't think they're like, I don't think it is a main story. If you mean by like not doing Ronnie's quest is the main story, I don't, that doesn't track with me. I kind of agree with the point about the Ronnie ending. To me, it shows that people do like a more structured narrative, at least more than the Souls community has always asserted. I mean, I don't know. To me, what I see in Elden Ring is, if anything, like the Age of Fracture ending is a slightly unsatisfying ending for people that didn't really dig into the game that much. And so the fact that not as many people got that ending, it's to me proof that people really like the story. I don't see it in those terms. I don't see it in those terms. I think that well, I'm trying to think of what the... I wonder what the different endings of Bloodborne were for people in terms of like the spread percentage of people that got things. Oh, I'm glad you're enjoying Dark Souls. Yeah, Dark Souls is a fantastic game. Highly recommend Demon Souls as well. Okay, I think I'm going to end it here because I'm getting a little stuffed up and my voice is going now. So this isn't going to be a super long stream. I think that's about it. I won't be able to talk clearly for much longer anyway. So, thanks for popping in, and thanks for those of you that hopped in the multiplayer. Let's just look at this beautiful man again. Miyazaki and his waifu. Pure beauty. Okay, yep, I think that's it for me. I'm gonna go make some food. I guess what I'm saying is that if you just go straight through there, no one to really get attached to. Melania is barely there, America is barely there, Radigan is barely there. Yes, that I would agree with. I think that the reason that Ronnie is attractive to people, and I mean that in a... The reason that people get drawn into Ronnie's story is because she is characterized more explicitly than many of the other characters. That's true. But I don't think... I mean, I don't really see it in terms of, like, mainline quest versus side quest. I think it's all just... It is part of the narrative. Like, these aren't opposing things. Yeah. All right, that's it for me. See you guys. Until next time.